American Family Association published a study by Regeneris that suggested that kids of gay couples do suffer more abuse, that they have more emotional, mental, and other problems. So that why can't the state regulate a behavior that it has an interest in doing?
Okay, let him answer your question.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Mark Regeneris, because Mark Regeneris' work, he's a sociologist, has been at the center of a lot of defenses of marriage bans. Mark Regeneris' work has been thoroughly and categorically repudiated by his own professional colleagues, the American Sociological Association. I'll give you just one example why. In his study, he compared intact man-woman marital families, and his test group on the opposite side was a person who had ever had any sort of same-sex contact in his or her life at any time. So he didn't compare apples to apples. He didn't compare intact married opposite-sex couples with intact married gay couples. This is an example of the kind of pseudoscience that passes for evidence in these cases. I'm sorry to point this out, but in Ryan's book, he cites a study from 12 years ago that now appears on the web and says this study should not be cited or used. It doesn't really prove anything. It was done at a time when the numbers were too small. No valid conclusions can be drawn from this study. I'm sorry, I choose to believe the American Psychological Association, the American Sociological Association, all these other credible peer review-oriented academic groups about what the research really shows about the welfare of children and families.
Ryan, let me let Ryan respond to that since he was called out. Ryan, but the AMA today did, I think, have an editorial urging the court to agree that there should be same-sex marriage, saying that it would be helpful to those families.
Yep. So I don't know where the American Medical Association got its law degree or what makes them experts on constitutional law. It looks from the audience here, most of you attended college. You would not be surprised to learn that professors can be politically motivated and that there's lots of ideology in the academy. So it's not surprising that the professional associations reacted violently when there was one study that came out that challenged the unanimous conclusion that they had doctored up. The peer-reviewed study that Mark Regeneris did was published. They then issued a giant protest about it. The peer review process and his department stood by him. They opened a scientific misconduct charge against him at UT Austin. He was cleared of all scientific misconduct. When his study was published, someone in favor of same-sex marriage, the dean of social science on family studies, Paul Amato at Penn State, said this was the best study that we had to date. Of course, he acknowledged that no study is perfect. He said it was the best one so far. I want to answer the question that you answered, though. It seems to me that there are three ways to think about what you said. Of course, the states can regulate behavior. And this is what distinguishes, first, this case from the interracial marriage case. Were there any good reasons whatsoever to think that marriage had anything to do with race at all? And the answer is no. And historically, marriage had nothing to do with race. The reason that we had bans on interracial marriage in the United States is because of our unjust system of race-based slavery. It was because of bigotry. It had nothing to do with marriage. Interracial couples had been raising children all throughout human history. We didn't have to wait for the science to come in, as Robbie suggested. We knew that it was possible for a black man and a white woman to unite in the marital act and create new life, and then to unite that new life with their mother and their father. And that's why every great thinker throughout human history said that marriage had to be colorblind, but it couldn't be genderblind. You look through Aristotle and Plato, look through Augustine, Aquinas, Luther, Calvin, Locke, and Kant. They all thought race was irrelevant to what marriage is, because like you said, it's not a behavior, it's not an action, it's an immutable characteristic. They all thought sexual complementarity and the union of a man and a woman uniting in marriage, that went to the heart of what marriage is, precisely because it can create new life and then unite a child with that new life.
Okay,
so the
Ryan,
second thing here is real quick, because someone else
question?
had mentioned this, on the artificial insemination. This is precisely the point. If you redefine marriage, you make it more likely that more same-sex couples create more children to then deny them a union with either a mother or a father. You change the definition of marriage, you change the definition of parenting, and then technologies like artificial insemination, which was already mentioned, will be more greatly utilized, creating more children to then be denied from the very moment of conception a relationship with a mother or a father. These are behaviors.
Okay, Ryan, the crowd's turning against you because they want to ask more questions.
Oh, let me say one thing. I want to say one thing. Sir, states can regulate behavior, and they should. And the kind of behavior they should be regulating are people who have the view that young gay boys can change being gay and should go to therapy to try to change that, because what happens from that therapy is they kill themselves.
That's
In
not true,
record-
ma'am.
in
Okay,
record
okay,
numbers
I'm going to
throughout
go
our
back
country.
here.